What's up everybody? So in this video we're going to be doing some more IB multiple choice questions on the topic 9.2. This is everything to do with the phloem, okay? The phloem. So here's the first question. The diagram below shows part of a vascular system of a dicotyledonous plant. Which process is indicated by the arrows? Okay, so first of all, let me quickly explain something about this diagram that will make this whole question much easier. But of course, try it out by yourself because maybe you already know the answer. So I have this image right here, okay? And so we're zooming in and we're looking now at this part of this plant, okay? Between the leaf and this fruit, okay? And we can see there's a lot of vessels, right? The xylem is a vessel or a pipe. A vessel basically means pipe. And then we have the sieve tube cell and the companion cell, which together we call the phloem. This is also a pipe, right? So they're saying here, the diagram below shows part of a vascular system. Vascular system just means pipe system. So this is the entire vascular system of a plant. So they're only showing a part of it, right? A part of it. They're not showing the xylem. They're showing here the phloem, which is the sieve tube cell, the companion cell, and then the source and the sink, okay? So they're only showing a part of it, whereas here is the whole thing. Now, let's quickly cover something. So we know that the leaf, right? So if we look around here, we look on the top, the leaf has a lot of cells which can do photosynthesis, right? And these cells can make a lot of energy in the form of sucrose and glucose and things like that. So we give it basically, we make it a candy bar, okay? Because it's like a lot of energy. It makes these sucroses and stuff, right? Now, other parts, such as the fruit and stem and things like that, maybe cannot do photosynthesis. And so how are they going to receive their energy, right? Because the source can make its own energy. So what the sink does is it basically depends on the source to send all of these sugars that were created down like this, so they can receive it, okay? So they can receive it. Now, how does it happen? The reason how it happens is the source makes it, and it's going to move it to the companion cell. It's going to build up here in the companion cell, and the companion cell will use energy. This is very important. It's not free, it's not passive, it's active, meaning you need ATP. And this ATP will send this sucrose into here, or this glucose, or whatever it is, okay, this energy form. And it will build up here and become really concentrated. And then next, we know water likes to move into areas of high solute concentration, or in other words, it likes to even out the concentration on between two places. So if it's really concentrated here compared to in the xylem, water will move into here to try and even it out, just like this. So there's like a pipe, and water will try and move through it into the sieve tube cell, okay, through this arrow. Now we know water is powerful. So if you've been at the ocean before and a wave hits you, you move. The same thing happens here. So when it gets really crowded in the sieve tube cells and the water moves by osmosis to even it out, it behaves like a wave and shoots these sucroses by force down here. Okay, now they can move into this companion cell. But again, this requires energy because normally there's already a lot of sucrose in here. So to move it against its concentration gradient into here requires ATP, okay? But again, if you don't get this whole process, I made a full video where I clearly and slowly explain this. This is just a quick run through. So this is how the source will send the sucrose through the phloem down to the sink, okay? A place that cannot make its own energy. So let's read which process is indicated by these arrows. A, passive translocation in the phloem of sucrose from the sink to the source. So there's two things wrong with this statement. Passive. We know, I just showed you that it requires energy, okay? We need ATP. This process doesn't happen for free. It doesn't happen without energy expenditure, okay? Secondly, what's right is that it's in the phloem. The xylem doesn't move sucrose. If they said the xylem, it'd be wrong, but it is the phloem. So we know this is the phloem. From the sink to the source, this is what's wrong. From the sink to the source, we know it moves from the source all the way down to the sink, not the opposite way, okay? The source makes it, the sink receives it, okay? So that's what's wrong with A. What about B? B is saying active translocation, so that's true so far. Translocation just means movements of these sucroses, basically. So it's active in the phloem, that's true, from source to sink. So this one is the opposite, so that's why it's correct. It's from the source to the sink. So why not C? The reason why not C or D is because they're saying xylem. The xylem has no role to do with sucrose transportation. It is only involved in water transportation, okay? So that's why it's not C or D. So the answer is definitely B. Okay, let's move on to the next one. What are the main structures in a bulb and their function? Okay, so to answer the question, you need to know what a bulb is. A bulb is a little place, like a safe, okay, or a kitchen cupboard, where a lot of things are stored, a lot of food is stored, okay? Now, it is normally located inside the leaf, okay, by the leaf, okay, nowhere else normally in the leaf, where photosynthesis takes place. So that makes sense because the source in the leaf will make all these sugars and store them, okay, in a special place, and when the sink needs it, it will then send it, okay? So when it is built up like this, where is it? So they're saying, what are the main structures in a bulb and their function? So I just told you the bulb is located in the leaf bases, so by the leaves, in the base of the leaf, and it is swollen because it's full, so the swollen leaf bases, and it's made for food storage. So the answer is C, okay? So this one, you kind of, to answer this question, it's not a matter of like, the other ones are simply wrong. So they're not like partly right, kind of like the previous question that was some were partly right and partly wrong. These are either completely wrong or completely right. So the answer is C here because A is just completely wrong. Same with B and D. Okay, they have completely different structures and completely different purposes. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. In the micrograph of a plant stem, which letter indicates the xylem? Okay, so we're seeing here a very ugly looking picture and it's not really clear what's going on, but through practice, in your practice, you should be familiar with this, but I'll show you a more clear image. So what we're looking at here is this. Okay, this is a very clear image, okay? We're essentially looking at this part. If we have a plant and we cut through the stem, so this is the root here, this is the root, but that is the stem. If you cut through the stem, and you look from the top, this is what you're going to see. You need to know all of these names, okay? And notice, here we call this whole thing a vascular bundle because this is where all the pipes are, all the vessels, okay? The bundle of vessels. The most inner one is the xylem, the most outer one is a phloem, and this black spot here is a lignin. This is basically a structural thing. It makes it strong, okay? This is for strength, and we know the xylem is for water and the phloem is for sucrose transport, right? And the center is just the pith. Again, that's for strength. Now, that's the main things you need to know. Same with the cortex. The cortex is on the outside and it's more for strength than anything else. It doesn't really have a movement. It doesn't have a vessel purpose. Okay, so now coming back to this picture, they're saying which one is the xylem. So the first skill you need to have is to locate the vascular bundles, right? So I told you, these are the vascular bundles. And if you look on this image, you can see it's really clear. Vascular bundle, 1, 2, 3. They're very clear, right? So it's more difficult on this image, but we can kind of see. Here's a vascular bundle. Here's a vascular bundle. It's not that clear, but we can see enough, okay? Now they're labeling stuff and saying which is the xylem. So we know the xylem is the most inner one. The most inner of the, once you've located the vascular bundle, it'll be the most inner part. So it's going to be C, okay? Because, and another thing that gives it away is the xylem has very big pipes. So notice here, if we look at this vascular bundle here, this one here, the xylem here is very big. The pipes are really big and round. Whereas the phloem here, so this part here, is super tiny. You can't even see them. You have to zoom in really close. They're really much smaller circles. So therefore, we know it's going to be C because B is more lignin. It's more this structure here, the dark part, the lignin, okay? And A is in between, it seems, the vascular bundles. So it's going to be more like this part here, more like the cortex. And then D looks like the center, so it'd probably be more like the pith, okay? So therefore, it's C. Okay, almost there. Let's do another question. In a plant, what tissues are especially adapted to transport sucrose? So we know that's the phloem alone. The xylem transports water, so it's not A because they're saying the xylem does it. B is saying the cortex and the phloem, but I just told you the cortex is this part here. It has no role in transporting anything. It's simply a structure thing. It keeps it strong. So it's not B, it's not C because C is saying only the cortex, so it's got to be D, the phloem, okay, the phloem. Okay, last one here. I guess again an image one, okay? So the image shows part of a section through a stem, again, a stem. So we're looking at a stem here. We're looking at this thing, basically. So of a non-woody plant, that doesn't matter, just a plant, okay? Trying to confuse you here, it's just a plant. Where does transport of sucrose occur? So basically, they're trying to make you find the phloem, right? So again, we look here. And the key is to find the vascular bundles. That's always step one. Find these vascular bundles. So let's see if we can find them here. Okay, here seems to be one. Here seems to be another. Here seems to be another. Okay, these are not as well organized as in this picture. Okay, they're not as well organized, but it's still the same kind of idea. They're just not as well organized because it's a different kind of plant. Okay, perhaps. So we know, if we look at this, we know that the big pipes in the once we find the vascular bundle and you find the big circles, those are the phloem. I mean the xylem, right? The xylem are the big circles. Okay, the phloem are the small circles. So we find it, that's the xylem, so this got to be the phloem, but they're not pointing at anything here. But if we find another vascular bundle, xylem, these small ones, these small pipes, that's the phloem, so it's going to be D. Again, this C is the part in between the vascular bundles, so probably the cortex or something like that, okay? So we know it's going to be D, okay? So again, the more pictures you can look up, the more examples you can see, the better and more used to it you'll get, because they're not going to give you easy ones like this, okay? Ideally they would, but they're not. They're always going to try and make it a bit tricky to see if you really understand it. So that's it for this video. In the future, I'll definitely make another video on the Phloem 9.2 questions, because the more you can do, the better. Eventually, they will show up in your test. Your teacher doesn't make their own questions. They will grab them from past papers. So the more you do, the better.